It's 672 miles to Chicago. We got a full tank of gas, half a pack of cigarettes. It's dark, and we're wearing sunglasses.
Hit it.
Welcome to Indiana.
Welcome to Camaraderie, without a doubt one of the channels on YouTube. Today's episode is sponsored by the letters V, C, F, M, and W. You'll find out why here in a second, so I guess this video is started. So, several months ago, my brother Clint hit me up and was like, hey, do you want to go to Chicago? There's a retro computer convention I'm exhibiting at, and I want you to shoot it, and after that, we can just fart around in the city for a few days. I thought about it for probably one whole second before I said, yep. We'd done a similar thing a couple years back in 2019 for E3 in LA, but Chicago has been on my bucket list for the better part of 2 decades at this point, and even more so since I got into photography. Packed my camera bag, 2 pairs of socks, and I was off. I didn't take nearly as much camera gear with me on this trip as I did for the trip out west, but that's because I took way too much for that trip. Instead of 6 different cameras, I brought my Nikon F2 with a 50mm lens, a 28mm lens that I recently picked up, and about 20 rolls of film. Mostly color, some black and white. We hit the road around 5:30 in the morning, and yeah, it was a long drive. If anybody from Indiana is watching this, I apologize for what I'm about to say, but your state sucks. The fact that you have wind farms is pretty cool, but do you really need that much corn? Do you really? That was almost half of the drive. It was just 5 hours of just corn. Anyways, we finally got to not Chicago, but Elmhurst, Illinois, which is more or less a suburb from what I understand. It's kind of like, for those of you North Carolina people, it's like you say you're from Charlotte, but you're actually from Matthews. That's pretty much what Elmhurst is to Chicago. But we got checked into our room at the Clarion Inn, where we'd be spending the next few days geeking out at the Vintage Computer Festival Midwest. All right. Well, right. Clint's got a much more VCF-centric video on his channel where he goes over like all of the cool stuff that's there, which is great because honestly, even though I do find vintage tech fascinating, a lot of it is kind of over my head. That being said, once we got everything set up and the show began, I had a blast. I always enjoy seeing where today's stuff came from and how it's evolved and changed or hasn't changed, and just kind of how things have moved forward or backwards. Whether that's cars, computers, cameras, fashion, music, or architecture, or anything else. Humans and the things they make, it's just neat. So for most of this time that we were at VCF Midwest, Clint was tied down not only with making sure his booth was running smoothly, but he was also just chatting it up with his fans and taking selfies and signing things, which, as his younger brother, it's just pretty surreal. But it's cool though. It's good to see him reaping the rewards of his decade and a half of doing what he's been doing. So it was really awesome to see that. But anyways, all that to say, Clint was pretty much just sequestered into the YouTubers corner along with the guys from Computer Clan and 8-Bit Guy. So it was up to me to shoot everything as much as I could, and I know I missed some things. There was a ton of stuff, but I know, yeah, it's just like there's a lot of stuff there, and a lot of stuff I found interesting, and other stuff that I tried to get everything, but I know I didn't get everything, or at least as much of everything. It's all cool and old to me, so I wasn't sure. Like, apparently there's like a mainframe or something that was like, Clint wanted more footage of that, and I was like, man, it's a beige metal box. Some of my personal favorites were all the stuff in the televideo corner. I'd never heard of that brand, and they just had a really interesting shape and look to them. Some darker brown plastics and all sorts of different kinds of green monochrome displays, and yeah, it was just cool to see stuff I didn't even know existed from brands I'd never heard of. There's also a bunch of funky looking terminals with some really colorful looking keyboards, and the form factor was just, I don't know, it's just wild. It looked like something out of a 1980s TV set, like on a sci-fi show or something. And then there was the stuff I'd never actually seen, but had heard of. Stuff like the Next Cube, or all the stuff from Acorn. I didn't even know that ColecoVision actually made a computer called Atom, I think. So that it was really cool to see stuff like that too. And then there were the things that are technically vintage or retro at this point, that I remember being released. And it's weird, for instance, the first generation iPods. But in all seriousness, no matter the age or the era of whatever the thing is from, or no matter when these things came out, it was awesome just to be around a ton of people who just get it, you know? I'm not sure if there's a word for it in English or German or Japanese or anything, but I don't know. Whenever I'm around people who are clearly passionate about something and you see their eyes light up, and it just makes me be excited for them, and I get excited about it myself. I don't know, it's infectious. And I love being around people who are doing or enjoying or partaking in whatever it is that just like gets them going. It's just awesome. You know what I mean? If you do, please let me know. Because I feel like I'm circling around a specific idea. But anyways, another thing that was super cool was that there were actually a fair amount of people who were into analog photography. I should have expected that there, I suppose, with the abundance of old retro tech. I had a blast talking to Riley, Zach, Juno, Steve from Mac 84. And I hate myself for saying this, but I can't remember his name. I want to say it's Ryan. I've looked through the footage so many times. I don't know. Wooden Gamer, if you're out there watching this, I don't know what your name is. I'm so sorry. I am terrible with names, but I had an awesome time talking with everyone there about just everything from different kinds of cameras to just, I don't know. It was weird being approached by people who like knew my channel, which was pretty tight. Like that, it was weird. It was surreal, but it was fun. And yeah, no, it was great to have some faces to put to names. So that was really cool. Riley is actually the dude who had the booth with like the first generation iPods, and he had a bunch of Apple stuff from like the 80s through to the early 2000s. We got to talking, and apparently his grandfather had left him a Jaguar branded Leica M6, which is like apparently a super one-off sort of thing. You know, I didn't think anything about it, and then like the next day Riley comes in and is like, hey, do you want to shoot with this? Yeah, of course. I never thought I would be able to shoot a Leica. But anyways, I loaded up some, I don't really remember if it was Kodak Tri-X or T-Max, because I was more or less flabbergasted by not only somebody asking me to shoot their camera, but also that the camera itself is like kind of a unique piece of history. I shot some pictures that I'm sure are just okay, but Riley, if you are watching this and you know, whenever you get that roll developed, send them my way. I'd love to share them on all of the medias, all the socials, regardless of if they're any good or not. Now, speaking of Leicas, I'm pretty sure I've mentioned this on my channel, but if not, here we go again. Generally speaking, I'm not really a fan of rangefinders. As a result, I've always kind of been a little bit skeptical of the general hubbub surrounding Leicas. But then I actually got the privilege of shooting one. Yeah, I was left speechless. I don't even know how the pictures turned out yet, but shooting with a Leica M6 made me think of those Claritin D commercials, like the allergy pill thing, where it's like it looks like it's a kind of a fine thing. It's a fine scene or whatever, and then it like takes off the I don't know, it looks like a dark sheet of plastic or something. They just like rip off, and it's like all ultra super high def, vibrant colors and everything. That's kind of what it felt like. Like I'd always had this picture in my head of, or this impression of rangefinders, and then I shoot with a Leica M6, and I'm just like, oh, I get it now. Precision engineering, man. I wouldn't expect any less from the Germans.
The Germans?
Everything about that camera was so smooth. Just like this transition into our time in Chicago. Coffee break, anyone? I should have mentioned this earlier, but this is probably another long video, so sit down and grab yourself a drink. After VCF was finished, it was sad seeing everything get packed up and everybody going their separate ways, but yeah, we were up around Chicago, so I'd never been, and it's one of Clint's favorite cities, and yeah, so you're like, yeah, let's just kind of kick around Chicago and see what it's all about. We stayed on the border between the Gold Coast and the rather pompously named Magnificent Mile in Chicago. After we checked into our hotel and got our bearings, we spent the next 2.5 days walking the streets of the Windy City. I don't have a pithy quip for how brilliant Chicago was, so I'm just gonna let some footage and some photos roll for a bit. Our first day there was marked by all of the fog and clouds coming in, but it made for some of my favorite photos just because it adds such a mood to a lot of the shots. For the first day and a half or so that we were there, I had my 28mm lens just to try and capture as much of the city as possible. As gross as it is that Trump's name is on this tower, it is a pretty impressive tower. It happened to be the start of the celebrations of Mexican Independence Day, and there were cars with flags, Mexican flags, blaring music, going down the streets and everything through the main strip. And I thought this one picture of Just this SUV with a Mexican flag in front of the Trump Tower. I don't know if it actually says anything, but it made me chuckle at least. Once I finished up that roll of Agfa APX 400, I knew it was time to load some Cinestill 800T, because you know I had to do it to them. Cinestill 800T, baby! I love the water tower and the fire department that is still standing. It's one of the only buildings still standing from before the Chicago fire. So, and it looks so moody. From the water tower to Lower Wacker to the Sears Tower to Lakeshore Drive, I couldn't have been more blown away by the sheer amount of views. Chicago is a proper city. Raleigh, Asheville, Charlotte, Durham, Greensboro, these are the cities I'm used to. But from now on, I can't think of them as anything more than glorified towns. For the most part, the first full day was just spent walking around downtown without any real aim or goal in mind. Just looking at cool stuff. Picasso's over there. Chicago actually has a Picasso sculpture just chilling in the middle of downtown, and I'm jealous. And this guy actually asked Clint to take a picture of him in front of the Picasso sculpture, but you know, I mean, it's the kind of thing that's bound to happen in a city like Chicago. This picture is actually one of my favorites from the entire trip. I'm not sure if it's just like the contrasting colors between the light blue shirt and the pink dress, or if it's this guy's just posture. I don't know. Something about it is just and my eyes linger on it. And then there's this silly looking building. So we just had to see what it looked like from the inside. Just like the bunch of nerds that we are, we made it to the Rookery building, which was one of the first projects, if not the first major project that Frank Lloyd Wright had a hand in. Made it to the Sears Tower and figured we'd go up to the top and just, I don't know, it's one of those things that you just kind of have to do when you're a tourist in Chicago. Just go up to the top of the tallest building and just, you know, stand in a glass box like 1,200 feet up. It's a surreal experience. I was a little disappointed because I had this film stock that is called JCH StreetPan. It's a 400 speed film stock, should have been fine, but like, I don't know if I did something wrong in developing, or if it's just not a great film stock, but yeah, no, everything came out like, it was almost like the emulsion washed off when I developed it. Maybe I'll do an in-depth review, give JCH StreetPan another chance at some point, but I do really like how this picture turned out. And this is kind of how the rest of them turned out. I don't know, there's just like not much definition. But of course we had to get a brotherly selfie up top. On our second full day there, we went to the Field Museum, which was housed in the former site of the 1893 Chicago World's Fair. It was while we were at the Field Museum that I realized just how much my dick sissel loves some brown boobies. And for some reason, I just had the urge to swallow some bush tits. Before I stopped being a jackass penguin, I just wanted to show you my cock. we wanted to go to Navy Pier, and yeah, we got a water taxi. Water taxis! They're actually cheaper than Ubers. At least the water taxi is. So it was kind of interesting. Cheaper and probably just about as fast. Took about 15 minutes to go across this little part of Lake Michigan. I had one last roll of Cinestill 800T that I brought with me, and yeah, you know, it was our last night in town, so I had to go out with a bang. One of the first things I did when I got to Chicago was look to see if there were any camera stores. I figured there would be, since it's a major city, and even Raleigh has a couple. There's one I really wanted to go to called Central Camera. Apparently they've been family owned and operated by the same people since 1899, which probably makes it like the oldest camera store in the country. Definitely the oldest continuously operating camera store in the country. We missed it on our first day downtown Chicago because, yeah, they apparently close at 2, and they're open from like 10 to 2 every other day. So yeah, we missed it by like an hour or something, I think. Yeah, apparently they got caught up in some of the riots that broke out after the George Floyd protests last year. And the shop got caught on fire and like busted up and everything. But we did make a point of stopping there on our way out of town on the last day. They're super, super cool people. I think they had like kind of the right mindset behind having to recover from getting their store trashed. They were super supportive of the movement. And they're like, yeah, at the end of the day, this is all just stuff, and everything can it may not be replaced, but like neither can the people's lives that this movement is kind of rallying around. So I appreciate that from them. But you know, they were awesome people running the store, and I tried to get a shirt, but they were out of my size, and it's on back order and everything. So one of the dudes did. He's like, hey, you can have a consolation prize. Yeah, I got a little central camera pin. So that's cool. I'm definitely going to be ordering a shirt just because I think the logo looks tight. And next time I'm in Chicago, I'm definitely going back to Central Camera just to, I don't know, spend some more time there and some more money. What a whirlwind of a trip. Brought, I think 20 rolls of film. I shot 19, and I was still having to like budget my shots towards the end because Chicago, you have a permanent place in my heart. And I know I've only scratched the surface of what this city has to offer. And I want to go back so bad. Chicago is one of those places where like, yeah, I don't know if you've heard of people like basically spending their entire career, photographically speaking, just photographing a city, just taking pictures of one city throughout the decades. Chicago is, I could easily see that being that kind of place. It's just so vibrant and full of life and cool people and architecture, and everything's just massive and big and just, oh my god. I'm trying to think of other big cities I've been to, and like the only thing I can think of is, at least on that level, is like LA. Been there, but it's its own beast for sure, but like Chicago's on a different level in my eyes. What a story, what a city, what a cool history, what a time, what an experience. I also just want to again shout out everyone who talked to me and talked to Clint and just made it a blast of a time. The people are really what make these sorts of events and these places so special and awesome. Oh yeah, also I forgot, I actually signed a couple of things. People wanted my signature. That was weird. That was really cool though. I think I signed 3 things. 2 film canisters, that your film cassettes come in. 2 film canisters and a Gravis gamepad that me and Clint both signed. So that was, I don't know, man. I just wasn't expecting that when I went up there, but that was awesome. You people who watch this channel are pretty cool as far. You're okay in my books. So yeah, massive thank you to Jim Leonard and all the VCF Midwest people who made it happen. And yeah, it was awesome meeting everybody. And hope we can do it again sometime. Like I said before, check out Clint's video for a more in-depth look at VCF Midwest as a whole. Like, this is kind of all over the place. Let me know in the comments what your favorite city that you've been to is and what makes it your favorite city. Even if you haven't been outside of your hometown, maybe you don't care about cities at all and you're more of a landscape photographer. Or maybe you get your photographic rocks off by doing portraiture instead of like architecture or street photography. I'd love to hear your thoughts on all of that and whatever else you want to talk about in the comments, because people take pictures for very different reasons with very different aims, and I'm down to talk about all of that because I don't know, like I mentioned before, like being around people who are passionate about whatever it is they're passionate about, it makes me feel something. I do hope to get to make more of these kinds of videos, like the 5 days out west and then this 6 days in Chicago video. They are a pain in the rectum to put together, but they're my favorite thing to shoot, both in video and photo format. I love having a reason to go somewhere, or not even having a reason to go somewhere, but going somewhere and then just like taking pictures of everything and trying my best to capture maybe not the experience of wherever I'm going, but my experience. I never know how to approach putting these types of videos together because I love detail and it's super easy to go into way too much depth. And I'm also drawn towards giving a broad, balanced overview of everything because I'm a Libra. So, and it's Libra season right now, so don't come at me. Anyways, that's all for this video. Thank you very much for watching. I'll be here on this side of the lens in the next one. But until then, see ya!